Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joan Zacco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Linfoot from Honda Racing, British Superbike Team, and this is Motorsport Radio.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to, as you just heard from about 20 different people, Motorsport Radio. And we're back with the F1 show. It took a little bit of a break last week because nothing was going on. But we're back this week because some things have gone on. My name is Ross McIntyre. Joining me, as always, is the wonderful Connor Jackson. Hello, Connor. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Ross. How are you tonight?
I'm okay, thank you, Connor. Doing quite well, and enjoying my. Is it Tuesday? I think so. Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday. Yes.
Thank you very much. There you go. At least one of us is on the ball. Enjoying my Tuesday evening, and well, as I said, some stuff has actually happened. So we can actually do something this week. Unfortunately, as you'll notice, there's only two of us tonight. Josh couldn't make it, so it's probably going to be a bit shorter than usual because we've lost our rant superstar who can just occupy 20 minutes of the show while we all go to the toilet and have a drink break and pretend to listen. But yeah, anyway, so obviously hope Josh's all okay. I'm sure he'll be back next week, but you're stuck with me and Connor for tonight. Not that is a bad thing. So let's just crack on with it, shall we? We got a bit of news, nothing too big. First one I think we'll touch on is we've got some car launch dates, which is quite interesting. The first one as well, 9 days time actually. Aston Martin, 10th of February. So we've got 4 dates confirmed. We've got Aston Martin, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes confirmed for their car launch dates. We've got the 10th of February for Aston Martin, 11th of February for McLaren, 17th of February for Ferrari, and 18th of February for Mercedes. So I don't think I really need to say anything else in regards to that. You got some car launch dates. Connor, any helpful insight to add about car launch dates?
I mean, other than the Ferrari, they're all McLaren Mercedes powered even. So I don't know. Read into that as you will. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. It probably isn't. I'm probably making absolute rubbish up. But you're right. Red Bull and Alpine and all the rest haven't bothered to. I say bothered, but haven't officially announced when they'll be launching their cars yet. We've had some teaser photos. Some of you guys might have seen online. I saw the back of the
Alpha.
Of the Alpha car and also of the Mercedes steering wheel. I forgot what it was called for a minute there. Was posted online, which while a completely innocuous shot, did make me think back to the giddy old days of DAS. Exactly.
This is a long time ago.
But those were the days and all that. But yes, some nice car launches coming up before the first test, which is on the 23rd of February at Barcelona. But that, Ross, will be behind closed doors.
Indeed. That's actually a good moment to move on and talk about Barcelona, because we've had this very weird situation where there's the new testing ban, which is even harsher on testing. So now you can't even shake down your car. Okay, so let me backtrack it. So normally what happens, the F1 teams build a car, and each year, each team is allowed 2 filming days, which they're allowed to use the car and put it around the track for filming. And typically, they'll use one of the filming days as a shakedown, in which they make sure the car works, drive around the track a few times, get some lovely shots and go, look at our car which drove around the track today. Oh, that's so amazing. And then the driver will usually tell the team if the car's good or not on the road. And they'll be like, yeah, cool, all right. And then they all rock up in Barcelona a few weeks later and they go around and find out the car isn't that good because Formula One is a mean sport and the world is cruel. There's new regulations in regards to testing coming in this year's. You now can't do that. So what they've got instead is, I think it's mainly to do with the fact that it's new regulations and they just want to keep it compact, and with this COVID still lingering around as well. Instead, they're having all the teams have a shakedown at the same track. So all the teams are shaking down at Barcelona in the same session. So it's 3 days at Barcelona, no spectators, no live TV coverage. There are allowed to be media personnel there, but there's no official reporting on anything major until the end of the day, when there will be a timing list basically updated. And it's not even called a preseason test, like a preseason session or something. And then a few days later, they go to Bahrain for the one and only preseason test. And then it's race one, like 2 days later, probably. So I don't know. So the first runnings of the year, we don't actually get to see, which I think is quite sad, actually. But
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword here. You did mention about the lack of, I should say, shakedown days, which is obviously an issue for lots of teams. But also, I think Formula One as a brand is trying to eliminate what happened during the 2014 preseason test. So we had the new we had the new V6 turbo engines come in, and one of the major problems with that was because it was a new engine, a completely new change of the rules. We had a lot of unreliability of the cars, and as a result, that was broadcast famously live on TV, and we saw what was essentially a lot of cars breaking down a lot of the time. And I think with the added, as you say, with the added new rules coming in this year and no official shakedown, it's inevitable that this first day of testing is going to end up with a lot of cars basically stopping after 50 meters. And that won't necessarily be dead in the water for their season or anything dramatic, but it will definitely not look good to be broadcast on live TV when you've got all of your new sponsors, eagerly waiting to see their cars. And so it's, I think it's at the behest of maybe some of the teams, and also, if I'm being political about this, Bahrain track as a whole, to make sure the Barcelona test is private, so that when they do reach Bahrain has the kudos of being seen as the first official and only pre-season test.
I mean, on the subject of, cars breaking down, I remember as well, we also got broadcast on live TV. I think the first race in Australia, 5 cars broke down on their outlap to the grid, and that was on live TV as well. So, good job. Yeah, I mean, I think as well, one thing that's interesting to me is actually I think Bahrain works more as a test track as well, in a sense that, not in the sense, it's good to test the cars at. I mean, it probably is. I've never tested a Formula One car, funnily enough, at any circuit. But, you rock up at Barcelona, you know what's going to happen, and then you go there in the season and the exact same thing happens all over again and the racing is dull. Last season, we had the test at Bahrain. Yeah, it was a bit unexpected. Obviously, the Red Bulls were fast. We weren't expecting that. But, at the same time, we got the race and it was a really, really good race. So I think, if they can keep that going, we could, I think they could be onto something there. But as you said, Bahrain is the first official test, and then the Barcelona is the pre-season session. So there's only one pre-season test this year, so I don't know how well that's going to go down, but I guess we'll find out. What else we got going? Ferrari have revealed the name of their car to anyone who cares about that. It's called the F175. There you go.
It's in honor of their 75th anniversary of, I think it was the S148 or something, when Enzo Ferrari first booted up his first what would become race car in 1947. And it's the 75th anniversary of that. And obviously since then they've developed into Ferrari racing cars, which, as we all know.
Yeah, F175. There you are. Here's some COVID news, because we love a bit of COVID news here on Motorsport Radio, because Connor, the health professional in the corner, just loves talking about that. COVID vaccines are now mandatory in the paddock. So if you are to be in the paddock of a Grand Prix, whether you're working or visiting or you're gate crashing, you have to have your COVID vaccine, which raising questions over Alan van der Merwe, who is obviously, is he medical car driver?
He is the medical driver.
Yeah, there you go. Who kind of disappeared from public eye last year, if it turns out that he wasn't in full, didn't have the brightest opinions of vaccinations, shall we say. So that raises a question about what he's going to have to do. Does he give up his job, or does he get the COVID vaccine? Guess we'll find out. Well, when we said there was some news, we were pushing it a little bit. Connor's put me together a little document, which I'm very thankful for, and we're very quickly running out of said things on document. There's something. Supposedly Red Bull failed their crash test. There you go. So there was a report the other day saying that Red Bull hadn't released their chassis name or their release date or something because they failed the frontal crash test on their chassis. And that's nothing to worry about. That's the one that you're most likely to fail. It's just structure the car, easily changed. But, it's just interesting. First design, if it fails, that's not ideal. Of course, the crash tests are there designed to make sure the chassis don't kill the driver, essentially. We don't really want that. And also we've got the Peter Bayer, who's the newly appointed FIA head of F1. And, in all of our Michael Massey drama, which has died down over the winter, he's, made some ambiguous comment over he might be going, he might not. Who knows? Stay tuned. And there's also a revision of the safety car rules supposedly coming in. And here's one that's interesting. I looked into this, Connor, and I didn't see anything. But supposedly Hamilton returned to social media, which I will. I mean, I didn't look very far. I went on Twitter and Instagram about 10 minutes before the show. Didn't see anything and then closed them again. Of course, Lewis Hamilton hasn't been on social media since Saturday qualifying at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last season for a multitude of reasons. I'm sure we all know exactly why. I don't know where you saw that because I haven't seen anything, but enlighten me, I guess.
Well, it was blasted to me on the tabloids, although I'll be perfectly honest.
Okay.
It was the tabloids. I didn't really look into it too much, which is why, as Ross has quite nicely pointed out, I put the words "which is apparently news" at the end of my statement. Hamilton, as far as I'm aware, made a post on Instagram, which is his first, as you say, public thing in quite a while. Again, there have been reports I remember seeing over the winter of him supposedly still having a private social media account that he would talk to his close friends on, but he wasn't posting anything publicly. So it's not that big a deal. He had a social media break last season. I think a lot of you will remember, and we discussed this in the last show. Quite interestingly, maybe the only thing we can read into this is that it's come out a few days after this whole FIA statement about we will look into the end of the season. And this is the first time the FIA have made a public statement going, we'll have a review for you by the start of March, basically. So maybe something to read into that one, but again, that's me tying loose ends here against vaguely analysed reports. So I don't want anyone picking me up and quoting on that one.
There you go. News. There's been a whole host of driver sign-ups in Junior Series as well. That's the only thing that really comes to my mind. F2's got half their grid done. Looks quite good. I will say just keep an eye on ART. They're looking very tasty. We've got some GB3 teams as well. I think High Tech announced 3 drivers for GB3 the other day. It was they've got Bryce Aaron, Luke Browning, and is it Kian Shields? I don't know how to pronounce it, but he was quite good in cars. So there you go. Got some GB3 news there. I know it's the F1 show, but we've run out of things to talk about already. No, we haven't.
I think you're just trying to breeze through the news quicker than I do, Ross. You're just quickly trying to get to your section.
I'm not trying to get to my section. I'm just saying we've run out. Quick, here's some GB3 stuff. I mean, let's talk about GB3. We'll talk about GB3, F3, and F2 very quickly. Talk about some driver lineups, because why not? So we've got some GB3 driver lineups going. Carlin have got all theirs confirmed. They've got Callum Voisin, Roberto Ferraya, and Xavier Segura. Looking through, there's a few drivers I recognise, a few drivers I'm not too familiar with. John Bennett over at Elite Motorsport, I used to sim race against back in the day, so that's quite entertaining. Nice to see John making strides. He's done quite well in Genettas over the last few years. And then, as I said, High Tech got a very nice looking driver line up there. Luke Brown, he's quite tasty. We'll say that. JHL Reese as well. He's pretty decent. I'll give him that. So a few good drivers there. GB3 in its first full season as a GB3. Looking quite good. I'm quite excited to see what they can bring forward this year. I think we'll have to see what's in store. Obviously, we've got GB4 as well to look forward to. So that'll be quite interesting.
It's a quite nice shake-up, as you say, of the junior series in the UK. Obviously, we've had our the big names come through before. Obviously, a lot of people are now obviously talking about Norris and Russell, and we're trying to find the next generation of those guys. I know last season GB3's champion Zach Sullivan has done a very good run of form. I believe he won Formula 4 the year before that. So he's definitely one to look out for in F3 this year. So the championship is, as I say, producing good stars. Perhaps quite interestingly is still how the British series are attracting an international appeal. Because I don't know about you, Ross, but I know there was a couple sort of rumours coming out after the Brexit talks a couple of years back that we would no longer have this big international appeal of motorsport anymore because we won't have those European ties, as it were. However, I'm intrigued and proud to say that we still have a lot of foreign support, as it were, in our national championships for junior drivers, as it's still seen as a very high caliber place to come learn your craft, which, if anything, I think proves that British Series can survive quite well for junior racing, but also for just racing in general, because I think, if I will say, Ross, junior racing as itself is usually seen as an indicator for how well a country does as a healthy motorsport industry, as it were. You very rarely get a country with a big established, say, touring car championship or sports car championship that doesn't have a prominent junior scene to back it up. Because you look at places like Germany and Italy and Spain, yada, 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 all of which have that ladder for their young drivers to come through. And the only real exceptions you get to that are the ones where there is big outside funding, such as you get in Southeast Asia. So
exactly, yeah.
So it's fantastic to see GP3 doing well. Obviously, GP4 being set up by Jonathan Palmer again this year as well. So it's all looking interesting down at the junior level, and hopefully we can see, another Lando Norris, he says, in the most cliche way possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. Look, GB3, it's again, it's good to see it attracts that international appeal. Even as you said with Brexit, I think it's a no politics sign on screen due there as well.
Oh, my apologies.
No comment on Brexit from us, but just an offshoot of that. And as well, losing the F3 title last year as well was something that a lot of people were worried was going to affect. Obviously, of course, when it was known as British F3, it wasn't the original British F3 that folded back in 2014, I think it was. But it's it was still been attracting drivers in under the name GB3. They've got this GB4 set up now as well, which got a few drivers in, obviously aiming to challenge British Formula 4. However, on the note of British Formula 4, there's some big things coming there. It seems like there could be some things brewing. So watch that space. There's been calls of a few teams here and there. I've heard whispers of Virtuosi, High Tech maybe getting a bit interested. Big names getting interested in British F4. Potentially a couple years could be rivaling ADAC F4 in Germany, Italian F4. So looks like British F4 as well. Britain's looks like it's trying to become once again the place for junior drivers to go, because currently it's you head over into Europe, Germany and Italy. Traditionally it's been Britain. It looks like teams are trying to get that status back. So watch this space for a few years. You never know what might happen, but GB3 looking quite interesting. Of course, F1, F2, not F1. Even though this is the F1 show, F2 they've got most of their drivers confirmed as well. So that's looking all good. You've got Dennis Hauger, Duran Deruvla over at Prema. That's looking quite tasty. The lineup that I've got my eye on, though, 100% is ART. Fred Vesti and Théo Pourchaire. They are going to be dynamite, I think. If ART can sort their car out, because last season they just weren't consistent enough. If they can nail that consistency, I think the only threat they'd have in terms of championship challenge would be Hauger. I genuinely think that is a ridiculously strong driver pairing. I think in 2023 we're going to be seeing Pourchaire in F1 in one of the Sauber seats, or Alpha, sorry. That's a very, very strong team right there. You got a few drivers going around as well. Sato and Doohan at Virtuosi. See how that goes. Lawson and Sargent. Now Sargent at Carlin, I think, is an interesting one. Logan's his career sort of died and has now had it magically revived again by the F1 gods. I think we can essentially say it doesn't take a genius to figure out that Liberty Media want an American driver in F1, and Logan Sargent is their best bet for that. So I assume that they've given Williams a nudge and gone, hey, stick this kid in your academy, will you? He's good, to be fair. Logan is good.
I think you have given Logan a bit of
I give him a rough time. Nail. I do give Logan a rough time. At the end of the day, when he was in the opportunity to win the F3 championship, he bottled it. I'm not going
to shy away from the fact last year was not a good year for him. I think we'll all accept that. We'll all get on that front. But yeah, we've seen drivers have bad years and then recover from it. Yeah, and go on and do well. So I really don't see why he can't, make something of this F2.
Yeah. I mean, last year he had a couple good. He was doing European Le Mans last year, and he had a couple good races, but it was nothing spectacular. The year before, he was in the championship fight for F3, and then, as I said, bottled it. I don't want to sound rude about it, but that is what happened. I can see the moment where he threw away the championship on my mind, and it's when he crashed into his teammate, Monza, being a hothead. Obviously, I'm sure he's learned from that, and I'll be very interested to see what he does, because he was in a couple of F2 races at the end of last season. He was at Abu Dhabi and Jeddah. Didn't do too badly, obviously given a lack of time in the car, and he was in one of the, I believe that he was in one of the, I want to say it was one of the no, it was the Camposes, sorry. He was in one of the Camposes. Did an okay job. So interesting to see how he does. Obviously, he's on the Williams Academy now as well, so he's going to have that backing. He's going to have that support from the Williams team. So be interested to see what happens there now, because, you know, suddenly he's gone from, you know, looking like he might have thrown his, you know, a career in the big leagues away to being gifted this golden opportunity. But at the same time, it is now crunch time for him to deliver. Over at High Tech, Armstrong, Vips, very strong lineup there. Drugovic, Novalak again over at MP, very strong. Looking through, and then
running back to our GP3 connection, Novalak's an old British F3 champion. So
there we are as well. Now here's one, Cem Bullock-Bassi. There we go. That's a name that most of you will be going, who? For me, I'm going, yeah, good lad. Now Cem started in esports, started in F1 esports, and now has an F2 seat. So he was essentially started off in F1 esports, did a bit of karting back in the day, to be fair, you know, wasn't, you know, too bad. You know?
I mean, he's done Formula 4 and some GT4 racing, so he's not inexperienced in a real car.
Yeah, he's not inexperienced, but, you know, he's mainly done esports. And then last year, he did Euro Formula Open, he did the F3 Asian Championship as well, and, you know, did quite well. And he's now found himself in an F2 seat. And, no, for your esports nerds out there, cough, cough, hello. You know, that's massive, because esport, how do I not sound wrong saying this? Esports is not motorsport. You know, it's one thing. I know, shocking. It's one thing to be fast in a simulator. Very, very rarely do you see somebody who's quick in a simulator go and be quick in real life as well, because it's a very, very different as well. In driving in a sim, often you adapt to be fast in the game, and the game's physics aren't perfect on real life, and you jump in the real life car and you're not as good. But, you know, Cem's got out there, he's got himself an F2 seat. So that's massive for me. Massive for esports. Obviously, a big well done there as well. Moving on from F2, F3 as well. They've got some of them done. Probably the biggest name on that list, Zane Maloney's over at Trident. That's a name that everybody in Britain should know, because we haven't shut up about him for about 5 years. And that's not just us, that's every media outlet in the world. You know, looking through this, it's actually quite a good list here. You know, you've got Crawford, Leclerc, and Ollie Behrman over at Prema. Now that is a lineup. Obviously, Arthur Leclerc last season in the Prema. Ollie Behrman dominated everything to do with F4 all over the place last season. He's looking like he, you know, could be evolving into a very, very strong talent. Gregor Saucy over at ART as well. He won the Freca Formula Renault European Championship powered by Alpine last season. So that's looking quite good. Hunter Yini over at Campos as well. Another American driver. Very excited to see what he can do. It's great to see a lot of American drivers coming in. I know Liberty really desperately want an American driver in F1. But, you know, F1 and F2 and F3, America's always been that area. It's just not quite been able to win. So it is good to see the American drivers coming through. And as well, what else we got? We've got Johnny Egger and Roman Stanek as well. Trident. Yeah, Prema. Once again, they should be winning this championship. I would be surprised if Prema don't win F3 this year, even the Drivers' Championship. Like as much as I give credit to Maloney and Edgar, who I'm sure will give them a good run. As you say, it's got to be one of those three. Prema are the best team, and they do the best job. They did it last year, did it the year before that. They'll do it this year as well. I think, you know, you've got Arthur Leclerc, who's got a year's experience in the team in a car. Crawford, who last year was pretty strong, showed a lot of improvement. Ollie Behrman, who, as I said, dominated everything to do with F4 last season. Again, up in F2 as well. I do think that Hauger is the best shot for the title. I think overall that ART have a stronger team. I think Vesti and Porsche, it's just a phenomenal driver pair. Literally like 5 minutes in, says an incredible driver is going to finish 10th in this championship. And that quote stuck with me, because for the most part, at that moment in time, it was true. Because, you know, just looking at the names, that was at the time the strongest grid we've had in Formula 2, in modern Formula 2. And then Piastri just went and wiped the floor with him. It was like, oh, all right then, fine. So, I don't know if that's, shows actually how we overestimated the grid or underestimated Piastri. But yeah, we're not going to get drawn into that argument, okay?
No.
Hauger, and actually, one thing I will say about Hauger as well, he is a Red Bull driver. And, we know that, Red Bull, they're a bit more hasty with, getting rid of drivers in F1 they don't like. And that's interesting as well, actually, is one thing is that Hauger and Derulo, they're both Red Bull drivers. And that's the first time I think Prema and F2 have had a Red Bull driver, let alone two Red Bull drivers, because they typically Italian affiliated with Ferrari. Last season they had Piastri on the Alpine, and that was a big. I know behind the scenes there was Ferrari weren't particularly happy about them taking on Piastri, so I don't know how they're going to feel about them taking on two Red Bull drivers, but no, not my problem. Anyway, that's enough about some news, because that's literally it. Time for a bit of a game, because why not? We love a game here on Motorsport Radio.
He's been leading up to this all night. He's been egging me on.
Yeah, go on. So we're going to play a little game, and you can get involved at home, by the way. And of course, if you're watching at home, hello. Don't be afraid to like, subscribe, share, follow us on all good social medias at Motorsport Radio, and get involved, get in contact with your opinions, because of course we love to hear your opinions. But we're going to play a little game, and of course you can play along. Now we're going to talk about drivers, tracks, and teams that we want to see in F1. Now this can be either fantasy and realistic as well. So, I want some fantasy drivers, just picks from out of the blue. And they have to be current drivers, either way. So you can't be like Ayrton Senna or Schumacher or Prost or whatever. It's got to be current drivers currently doing F1, or not F1, or currently doing motorsport. Got to be realistic drivers that you want to see in Formula One or teams of truck. So we'll go first, Connor. Drivers. Let's start with drivers. Who's your fantasy picks? It can be multiple. Who's your realistic picks?
Oh, I can't believe you, Ross, because obviously when you said no older era drivers, it means I cannot pick Taku Inui, and I'm very, very disappointed by this.
Oh dear. Oh, Connor, Taki Inui.
I know.
That's a name.
I know. Right, Ross. If you want drivers, so non-F1 drivers who would be, interesting to see in F1 cars, yeah.
Yeah.
I've really got to say, you look at how I'll pick a sort of F1 affiliated link for the first driver, which is Jean-Eric Vergne, because you look at his career progression, as it were, after Formula One let him go, and you look at what he's achieved in endurance racing, and you look at what he's achieved notably in Formula E, and he has become one of the best, in my opinion, non-F1 drivers out there, and has genuinely put a marker down as the late 2010s non-F1 driver, as it were. And while I'm happy to admit that maybe in the last 2021 season, 2022, he started to lose that edge, I think his loss against Antonio Felix da Costa in Formula E last season was indicative of how he's not quite got the edge he used to.
Won it last season, the season before.
He did, but the point I wanted to note was that he lost to his teammate.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting how many years on, and it must be 10 years now for Jean-Eric Vergne, to get a second chance in an F1 car, just to see how those 10 years have progressed him as a driver, from when he was let go arguably far too early by the Red Bull Academy for what was a very stunning driver. So that's one I want be curious about. The other one is perhaps a little more off the wall, but something I know we've talked about in the past. When we've talked about switching series entirely, the name Valentino Rossi often gets brought up about let me finish this about the chance he had an F1 car and the fact that he never went through with it and decided to commit himself to the bike racing scene. And I respect Rossi for that and see where his career has gone. However, if there is one series that has a habit of having their champions try out other series and do well, it's rallying. And as a result, I want to see an F1 car driven by Sebastian Ogier, just to see how he can translate that skill, as it were, from a very off-road environment to a more grip and tyre-focused management. Because we've seen plenty of F1 drivers try out WRC, of course, Kimi Räikkönen obviously being a notable example. But Ogier himself, I think, has proven himself easily to have been the best driver since Sebastian Loeb before him. And now he is trying out other series. He's going into touring car racing. He's winning some of that as well, I'll be perfectly honest. I want to see, like Verne, he's sort of coming to the end of his power, as it were. But one season just to see what he can do in the prime of his life and really thrash around an F1 car with hopefully a bit of training behind him.
All right. Actually, my first fantasy pick was also a WRC. Mine was actually Sebastian Loeb.
My apologies for stealing your thunder on that one then.
No, so I mean, OJ's same country, same first name, different last name. And it was mainly because
He's
did actually
calling Loeb Ogier here. All the
no, you said
Ogier.
You said Ogier.
I know, and you're calling Loeb Ogier. How dare you?
I'm not. I'm just saying, they've got the same first name, different last name.
Oh, that means everything, does it, Ross?
And they're both, it's basically the same. They're both like one of Loeb. It doesn't matter. But the reason I picked Loeb is because he actually did get an offer to race in F1, didn't he? If you remember back to 2010, Toro Rosso actually offered him a seat in the 2010 season, and he thought about taking it. In the end, he did. He turned it down, and actually the FA afterwards turned around and said we wouldn't have given him a super license anyway because he hasn't done enough circuit racing. But he apparently did a test, and the car was actually really quite good, which doesn't surprise me when you win like 9 World Rally Championships on the trot. I would have loved to have seen him in an F1 car in an F1 season. I think Loeb, I think, is definitely one of the most talented drivers in motorsport that we've seen, full stop. I think, you've got to be daft to not admit that. And I would have just loved to have seen what he could do in an F1 car. The other driver that I think I'd choose, actually, this one's probably the most off the wall out of everyone, I think. But, when you look at just how good he's been the last few years, I think, when you look at his performances, yeah, he probably wouldn't drive an F1 car particularly fast because he's a GT driver. But I think based on performance and merit alone, I think Kevin Estre has to get a shout because he, for me, has been one of the best drivers in the world in motorsport over the last few seasons. Last year, his 2021 year was just obscene. If you haven't seen it, go on. Actually, no, after you've watched the show, of course, but go on YouTube. Go and search up Kevin Estre Nürburgring 24 Hours. It is one of the best performances in a race car I have seen. That performance alone is worthy of praise. And when you just consider what an amazing season he had, what an amazing season before that he had, and the season before that, I think it just his performances alone. Yes, he's a Porsche GT specialist. Yes, he probably wouldn't be any good in F1 car. Yes, he's getting on a bit as well. But, he's
only 33. The drivers we suggested were like 38.
Yeah, I mean, Loeb's 47, but
exactly.
Minor details. But yeah, he's 47 and he's just won the Monte Carlo rally. Like, come on. That I'm 17 and I'm sat in my room talking to a camera. That's not a bad thing. I'm glad I'm doing that.
You're talking to me, Ross. Is it really that disrespectful?
Oh God, no! I sat here tonight going, another night talking to Connor. At least Josh isn't here. Goodness. But yeah, Estre, I think is just worthy of a shout. I think he's pretty solid. Seeing as how I'm in the flow of things, I'll jump over to my realistic drivers. I have my producer going to be, Oscar Piastri. I'm not going to say Piastri because I'm technically including him because he's a reserve driver this year. So I'm not going to say Oscar Piastri. I will go down the generic route of junior series though. I'd say Porsche definitely. Fred Vesti, I think I need to judge this season in F2, but I think he should be good enough. Schwartzman? No, because he's a test driver, so I won't include him. I'm being harsh. If anyone's affiliated with an F1 car in an official role next year, or this year even, not allowed on the list. So we've got Vesti, Porsche. I'd quite like to see Vips have a go on an F1 car, to be honest. See how he does. I'd quite like to see Lawson give it a go to see how many people he crash into. That was a joke, Liam, if you're watching.
Wow, we're getting cancelled again.
Oh, Tictum, just in my ear. That'll be interesting. I mean, actually, to be fair, say what you will about Tictum, and I know he got kicked off Yeah, I know he's crashed into people in the past, and he got kicked off the Williams Academy and the Red Bull Academy for being a naughty boy. But I think he'd be alright on F1. Has he tested it? I think he might have tested in F1 before. I don't know.
I mean, how stringing are we getting here, Ross? Is it like, he had a test once in an F1 car, a surprise for winning F1?
No. This isn't me like, don't include it because he had one test. This is me being like, I'm just trying to think. If he had a test and was he any good? I can't actually remember. But I assume he'd be. Kid's quick. Well, he's not really a kid anymore. He's actually quite old now, but he's quick.
Quite old,
that's 20. He's basically in an old folks' home. All right.
22.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. That's like 5 years older than me. It's like, come on.
Right, okay, right. I'm not coming on next week, Ross.
Just me. And then there was one. Ticton, maybe. Who else? Yeah, that'll do. All right, we'll shove Ollie Behrman on there as well, and Dennis Hauger, because they deserve to be on the list.
I feel like you're just
all right. I'll put it to 2
choices now.
You know what? Shut up. I'll put it to 2. Hauger, Porsche. There you go. Hauger and Porsche. They're the 2 people I want to see. Who's your 2 realistic people that you want to see in an F1 car, Connor?
I don't know if there's anyone left nowadays. I'll just pick Dave down the chippy, shall I? Because it's the only one you haven't said.
You never know. He might be all right.
Oh God! Again, how realistic is probably a good question to note on this front. If we're talking affiliates, it'd be quite interesting to see someone like Pato O'Ward give a shot. He's been obviously doing notably well in IndyCar last season. Won a couple races over there and was 3rd in the championship at 22, which, as Ross has pointed out already, it obviously makes him a granddad of racing. Colton Herta's a personal favourite of mine, just because I've seen him personally race before, but I think he's got a little less F1 connections nowadays. Although, there was that small period of maybe, was it Andretti? We're going to buy out Sauber at some point last season, but that all fell through the floor. So we'll see about that. So those 2 are some American affiliate drivers. Be interesting to see come over. In terms of F1, I mean, obviously, I think the pick has to be, you'd put Piastri in the car, because let's be honest, Piastri's done the best of any junior driver since Leclerc. But I'm sure Ross would look at me and go, well, I couldn't pick him, so you can't either, Connor. In which case you want to do, you want to be looking at who the up and coming ones are. Again, Hauger is a fantastic choice just because of his run of form, as it were. I think Théo Pourchaire, simply just because of how quickly he's progressed through the order, he's definitely going to need a seat in the next year or 2. But honestly, if you're really saying that, I'm going to be very, very harsh about this, Ross. Outside of about 3-4 names, you're getting a bit desperate for who you want for an F1 driver, because while there's nothing I want to take away from Schwartzman, there's nothing I want to take away from people like Yuri Vips. They have been in these series 1 or 2 seasons, and it comes back to the Guan Yu Zhou problem, which is, how close do you want to be before it's too late?
Ooh, good question, good problem. Yeah,
because if you want to look at it from that front, I want to say someone like Nick de Vries is a better driver for a role than Robert Schwartzman, for example. Obviously, 2 completely different academies, obviously. I know that they'd never both be considered. But someone like de Vries is obviously way out of junior range now, and he's applying his trade in Formula E, but he's still a better Mercedes affiliate driver than some of their junior rank drivers, because their junior rank drivers aren't performing at the world-class level that you need to be, not just to get into F1, but to earn your spot to stay in Formula One. I mean, we've joked, we've talked about Guan Yu Zhou and Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll in the past about pay drivers, and I'm not going to get into that whole debate again, Ross, but if they are going to be occupying those seats, you want to make sure that the remaining seats are filled up by not just good drivers, but by exceptional drivers. And which is why I'm putting someone like Poucher on a bit of an asterisk, because I agree he's very good, and I agree he deserves an F1 seat only if this season of Formula 2 is exceptional and he wins it outright, or at least becomes incredibly close to winning it. Because otherwise, he's been a nearly man in 3 series.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, again, nearly man. Again, strong competition, but we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, there is an argument. Someone like Pato O'Ward is probably also a nearly man, but he's a nearly man in a lot more of a respectable category.
To be fair to Paul Scher as well, he is also very young. I think he turns 19, 18 this year, something like that. He's so young compared to everyone around him.
That's what I said. I'm happy to give Poucher another year or two because he can absolutely deserve it. But my point is, I don't want people to be like, oh, he won 2 Formula 4s back in the day, so thus he automatically deserves something, because I think that's a bit conflacious with how people progress up the order and how competition changes over time and how drivers change over time. Because you get a lot nowadays. Formula 1 drivers are not the ones that do well right at the start of their careers. They're the ones that do really well right at the crunch point of their careers, the Formula 2. Even if you want to take Latifi as an example, Latifi won virtually nothing back in his Formula Renault and Formula 3 days. He only started winning when he was at Formula 2, and that was the key moment for him that he won. While there are plenty of other drivers who have won F4 series, and the moment they get up to F2, they basically don't perform. And I'm looking at Yuri Vips. And they just haven't, shone through the order as they should have. And as a result, they're becoming seasonal drivers in that sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and one I definitely want to talk about another day. But we are running out of time a little bit, unfortunately. So I think I'll move on to the final point, which is tracks. What tracks you want to see? And again, you can be realistic, unrealistic. Realistic's got to be a grade 1 circuit. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. I think I know a couple, but you can go any track in the world. Give us some that you'd want to see in the F1 calendar.
Are we doing this by the 2022 calendar?
It can be just a track you want to see. It can be by what you want to replace or whatever. Just a track that you would like to see an F1 car race at, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I could have been really technical and said we really need to go back to Portugal because those 2 years of the Estoril circuit proved that it needed to be done, as it were.
Are we not going back to it? I thought we were still.
No, we're not going back to it. Those 2 seasons were what we had. They were COVID temporary, and now you're off, boy.
Fair enough.
Which I'm really annoyed about because it produced the most overtakes out of any track of the last 2 seasons, and yet they've booted it.
Shows how much I'm following this year. I mean, maybe they're doing it to be like, we don't need this track. We can overtake with the new regulations ourselves.
Oh, that's a thing. All right, okay. I mean, if we're going on that front, mate, I'd love to see them back at Brands Hatch because fun. But it's not a grade 1 circuit.
40-second lap.
40-second lap, you are. Let's do it, mate. Let's do it. I mean, Bahrain Outer Circuit was 52 seconds or whatever it was. So don't you discount it. Brands Hatch would be nice. At the very much time, though, I'm aware that's my slightly more unrealistic circuit, let's say, shall we?
Yeah, I'd love to see him back there. I'm not sure how realistic it is, as you said, but
the circuit's way too narrow, and the circuit's not safe at all.
You need to remove a lot of trees and grandstand, and build an entire new paddock, and have an entire new road system to it because the current A road is useless anyway, and probably just move it out of Kent because let's be honest, you also have an F1 race in Kent anymore.
Building a new circuit now.
just build a new circuit. On the note of British circuits, I'd love to see them back at Donington. And I think that is slightly more realistic than Brands Hatch. I still don't think it's very realistic, but it's slightly more realistic. I think Donington's a great circuit, and I think F1. I don't think the overtaking would be particularly strong there, but I think it would be so much fun to drive in an F1 car. When you consider how fast it is, big, flowy down, up all the corners are all over the place. It'd be brilliant, I reckon. On the note of fast. This is now getting into the very unrealistic.
Go on.
I'd want to see Road America on the F1 calendar.
It's not that unrealistic, but
I know they'd have to get a lot more runoff along the back section, which would cost a lot of money. Again, a lot of trees have to go away. But I think Road America would be brilliant in an F1 car. Imagine how far. I mean, the carousel. Imagine they could probably take the carousel flat in quali trim, or with the last year's regulations anyway. I mean, that would be insane. They'd be pulling like 5-6G through that corner. It'd be ridiculous. Again, overtaking non-existent, but qualifying would be something to behold. If I'm going for Kyle Army as well, another one I'd like to see back. I think that's on everyone's agenda. We want to see a race in Africa.
I'll be honest. I'll do a hot take here. Kyle Army is overrated.
I mean, I will also agree with that one. I don't think it's as good as a track as everyone likes to pretend it is, because it's the only circuit in Africa that people know. But I do think it's important for a world championship to be a world championship. And, I think Kyle Army needs to be there out of historical significance almost. And I think as well, the modern Kyle Army,
you could open stuff up in other Africa countries. I'm sure Morocco would be more than happy to open itself up to someone.
Yeah, with another street circuit.
You could just take the Formula E street circuit.
Yeah, true. I'm not sure how well they do around them, but we'll see. I think as well the modern car line actually would not be too bad for overtaking, because it's very flow, but there's a few good overtaking spots as well. So I think it'd be all right. And a track I'd like to see, I know this is more of a bike circuit, but it is grade 1. I'd like to see the Kimi Ring up in Finland on the F1 calendar.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a bike circuit, and Qatar is a good example last year of why we shouldn't have bike circuits on F1 tracks or on F1 calendars. But I think it flows a lot nicer than Qatar. It's not just dead flat, drawn on a piece of blueprint and there you go, there's your circuit. It's well in the land. It's going up and down. It was very flowing circuit again. Overtaking probably not great, and it's a very short lap as well. But I think Finland deserves to have an F1 race. I mean, we talk about who's got the money where we want to see one, but I think as well we need to talk about countries that deserve to have an F1 race. I mean, you consider what Finland has given to the Formula One world. I think they've got the most world champions out of countries with the least amount of entrants into Formula One, because they've had I think every single Finnish driver that's entered Formula 1 bar Valtteri Bottas or something stupid no, that's probably a lie. I'm probably talking rubbish. But I think in terms of, I am talking rubbish. But they've had 3 world champions out of 10 drivers or something. So I think that they deserve to have a race. And let's go back to Indianapolis. Why not? It's grade 1. I don't know. I prefer it over Circuit of the Americas anyway. I don't really like Circuit of the Americas, if I'm being pedantic about it.
I see. I would like to, as you were talking about American circuits, by the way, I would like to say someone like Sebring, because I know it's incredibly bumpy. I know Sebring is incredibly bumpy, but I think it would be fun just to see an F1 car attempt.
IndyCar going back to Sebring? I think they are. Hang on, let me Google this. I've not been paying attention to any motorsport news recently. I do apologise because I've basically not been doing my job, but I'm pretty sure that IndyCar are going back to Sebring. Alabama, Long Beach. Let me have a look. Their calendar is not particularly great, to be honest. Is that an oval? I think that's an oval. Honda Indy, Toronto, Mid-Ohio.
Is that an oval, he says?
Maybe not, but IndyCar Sebring. Let's have a look. Because they might test. They test at Sebring. Okay, so they started testing again at Sebring. That's what it is. The IndyCar test there, they can do it. I'm now watching Roman Grosjean on board of Sebring, of a driver's eye view of him at Sebring, which is very interesting. I'm sure very bumpy. Why not? Let's have an F1 back at Sebring. It'd be funny to watch them go about 2 corners and then shatter into a million pieces. The most expensive Formula 1 race in history. Any other tracks? Or is that it? I can't
I mean, there was a bit of a joke one. I was thinking, you could send it back to Avis in Germany as a laugh. But no, that's not going to happen. That was more. But by the way, your Finnish thing. By the way, I tried to have a quick look at it up. By the way, half the drivers Finnish drivers who have entered Formula One have won a race, of which only 2 who have entered multiple seasons have failed to win a race, and that being JJ Leto and Mika Salo. Salo, who got very close to winning a race and had to give it up because team orders.
And JJ Letter, to be fair, wasn't half bad either. And then, again, as you said, Mika nearly won a race in 99. Yeah, when got told to get out of the way for Eddie Irvine when he was substituting for Michael Schumacher with a broken leg. So not too bad there, to be fair, from Finland. No, that's not bad. They've done all right there. I can't think of any more tracks. Can you think of any more tracks? Or are we?
I mean, there are plenty of other tracks, but it's about whether they're viable, let's say, for Formula One.
I don't think sending them to a kart circuit's really going to work, to be honest, is it? So, yeah, maybe, again, you can have a think about it at home. Send us in. What do you reckon? Do you think our suggestions are bad? Is your suggestions good? Do you want to see F1 at a kart circuit? Let us know at Motorsport Radio on all good at social medias. I think we're going to wrap up for tonight because, again, we run as long as I think we basically can with beating this horse with the stick. Because there was some news that turned out to be not a lot because I zoomed through it too fast. But
it would have been more news, but as you mentioned, you didn't really stick on it, did you? I always planned everything out, Ross. And you denied me, Ross. We
got told before the show by our producer, let's make the news really short and punchy because I can then edit it into a show. You did say that, Lester. We got told to package it in and then we'd punch through it. So I packaged it in and I punched through it. All right. So just allow it. Thank you very much for tuning in here at Motorsport Radio. Thank you, Connor. I know you probably hate me now and you're not going to come on next week anyway because I said you're in a care home. But, it's been a pleasure. Go grab your walking stick and I'll maybe see you next week if you remember to come on or not.
Sounds like someone needs their dummy.
Yeah, I mean, Josh did go through like a period of time calling me like the baby face genius or something, didn't he? Which didn't really stick, but don't talk about that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Connor. Been a pleasure as always. I know it was only the two of us tonight, but it was all right.
It's a pleasure to have you, Ross, and all that.
Yeah, to you too. Thank you very much for tuning in here at Motorsport Radio. Maybe next week, if anything happens, we might not because. Again, nothing really happens until the Thursday next week. We will. All right, so we'll be here next week then, even if nothing happens. Thank you for tuning in here to the F1 Talk Show on Motorsport Radio. Same time, same place next week. We'll see you then for some more maybe news as we get prepared for some car launches. Adios.
Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joan Zarco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Linfoot from Honda Racing, British Superbike team, and this is Motorsport Radio.